at least as we know it, is that Uganda is a constitutional democracy. And what this means is that whatever our public officers do is guided by the law. Article 101 of the Constitution empowers the President to deliver to the country a State of the Nation address. To some people, this is supposed to be, a leap of hope, a sign of, accountability of what we have experienced in the past, financially, but also a promise of what the next financial year should look like. And, the President did deliver this speech last week, and we're here to evaluate the highs and lows, the loopholes, what were, the take-homes that we can have from that address. Viewers, I'm joined by a panel of eminent young people that it's now my pleasure to introduce to you. And in just no particular order is from the National Unity Platform, and that is the Youth Wing. Former President, Guild President of Makerere University Business School, Bruno Kamoga is in there. Bruno, we are pleased to have you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade Kidega.
We'll be back from, was it Masaka?
Actually, before you go any more further, thank you so much for supporting Uganda Cranes, and this is something that united all of us,
sure,
regardless of the color. The support was very, very strong. I was there yesterday, even the other day I've been supporting.
Sure.
And another thing, actually, NUP has opened up a school of leadership. I welcome you, comrades, those who have been asking about the ideology of NUP, what we stand for, and etc. You as the young leaders, we welcome you. You can come through. I subscribe to the class of level 2. That is for the professionals, those who are done with their degree, the first degree. So we welcome you, comrades, my friend here, Gold, the Mucyos, and also my brother. It is open.
Interesting. It's an open invitation, so the viewers, you take the decision. Next on the show is Mr. Ivan Agaba. Ivan is an economist by training. We also bring him on the show most times. We have, some economic analysis to make. Yes, but Ivan is a trained economist. Ivan, always pleased to have you.
Well,
and, I don't know if you're still part of the YYM.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Kidega. I'm a stalwart of the youth yellow movement, or yellow youth movement. And it's a pleasure to be back to the round table to discuss, I think, something that's important, that really should concern all Ugandans.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Wow, interesting. The only lady on the show this afternoon is the first you've seen either on this show or somewhere, at least, for those who are, religious followers of Youth Student Matters. The name is Gold Ikyiriza. Gold is the Vice President of the Uganda National Students Association. Your Excellency, we are pleased to have you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kidega. Good afternoon to you all viewers. It's a pleasure being on this panel and deliberating on pertinent issues that concern us as Ugandans. Thank you, and I look forward to deliberating. Thank you.
Thank you. The last panelist on the show is a gentleman. For those of you who have gone to Makerere, in the past 5 years, the name needs no introduction. The 87th Guild Speaker of the Makerere University Students Guild, and a member of so many other political outfits. Mucyo Gatuya is the name. Mucyo, we are pleased to have you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Kidega, for introducing me. Once again, I appreciate Civic Space for inviting me here to discuss this pertinent issue. I also appreciate my fellow colleagues for making time to be here today. To all viewers, a good afternoon.
Wow, well, let's just begin right away. And let me see, Bagonza, Ivan, let me begin with you. Just a general question to all of us. What's your snapshot of that address?
Yes, thank you very much. So I think the State of the Nation address, as you said, is it's a constitutional requirement that places the onus on whoever the head of state is to give a statement of account of the current social, political and economic situation of the country, and that head of state happens to be the fountain of honor, the president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Well, my general comments about what he shared in his State of Nation address, I think it was so generic. He didn't seem to be specific. He was simply explaining or giving a lecture on, I think, the ideological foundations of the NRM and connecting those to the situation as is. And his was sort of an assessment, an evaluation for the country or the citizens to evaluate themselves against a scorecard that he shared. That on the 4 principles of the NRM, the patriotism, the Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation and democracy, how far have we as a people, the Ugandans, moved towards achieving those? I think in totality. And well, I can say it was a short one compared to the ones that he usually gives. I don't know whether it's because of his age or because of the age of his audience, being young people, Gen Zs with a very short attention span. So I think he tried to keep it short and brief, spot on, as always.
Just a follow-up question, Ivan, is that you mentioned a scorecard.
Yes.
But 6 years down the road, should that still be the same scorecard that we evaluate ourselves on?
So I think I need to be honest, as we are an enthusiast of the NRM, that I think we are going through a phase of burnout. You have a leader really with a very wonderful story to how he came to be a fountain of honor, and he has had all these ideas that he has pushed for this long, but I think he has burnt out a bit, and I think it is why he's trying to pass on the baton in ways more than one to a youthful sort of group that can further or modify or improve the status quo of Uganda. And this is evident with cabinet appointments. We had people from the PLU being appointed to cabinet, Honorable Nyamutoro, Honorable Lilian Abel. You can see there's a young crop, the Hamson Obuas, the Ogwangs, the Anites. So that's the youthful group that I think to him thinks have bought into this idea of this doctrine. He takes himself to be the head of doctrine of the NRM, and I think having subscribers to this doctrine to be able to push this narrative further, I think he's what he's doing.
Okay.
Yes.
Bruno, your own snapshot.
Comrade Kidega, it is well known to all of us here that obviously when you have the State of Nation address, you expect a layout, projection and a broader picture of what the incumbent government was looking at, how far it has gone and how far it is looking to go. I think the address that was delivered by the president wasn't satisfying, because he started by reminding Ugandans what they stand for, what the NRM manifesto was, and their principles or doctrine. And one of them, we had patriotism. And patriotism, it is clear to everyone that this is the love one has for their country wholeheartedly. And I don't think whether the people who are part of his government and himself are still patriotic. I don't think whether they are. And he started by reminding, because he knows very well that they are off that track. You cannot tell me that leaders who are patriotic enough are the same leaders that are looting this country, driving this country to extreme poverty. I don't think that President Museveni doesn't know that there are 11,000 plus students or graduates who finished school from Makerere University. That's only Makerere, 11,000. Comrade Kidega have been leader of students in a university. Up to now, I have comrades who led in their classes or in their programs. I have students who have graduated from professional programs, IT, marketing, doctors. For those they are still under their internship, but they have no hope after. If at all they are patriotic enough, let them pave way for the young generation, because half of the population, more than half of the population that graduated up to now, they are still unemployed. Comrade Kidega, in the same direction, I don't think that President Museveni doesn't know that there are 1,000 of Karamajongs and other members of this nation or citizens who are still sleeping on empty stomachs. Comrade Kidega, I don't think that President Museveni doesn't know that the person who was in charge of this State of Nation address, the person who was addressing before his speech coming forward, the Right Honorable Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, Triple A, Annette Among, that she is one of the top corrupt officials. I don't think that the president of this nation is not aware of the increasing number of illiterates in this country, those who are failing to make it to university education, not because they don't have the brains, but just because of the economic status of the families where they come from. I don't think that he doesn't know and is not aware of the issue of traders that he talked about and played around it, and up to now he is making them forget, but it still stands. These are people who have given in their little monies. These are matters that we talked about when I last sat here, and he has played around the issue up to now, and the same president promised, the same president came and played around the matter. Up to now it's not sorted. These are members who most of them are not even aware of government programs, but they are only focused on their businesses to get a coin to feed their children, their wives, and also pay tuition or school fees to those that are benefiting from them. But they're just playing around these matters. These are questions that I give to my fellow Ugandans and you, the youth, who are ready to take up this country in the future. I don't think the president didn't know all those matters, but only to give us statistics, because yes, ministers know what is going on in the industries that they run, and also the ministries. These statistics, these are ordinary things that a senior citizen is supposed to know. I don't think these are things that were supposed to be delivered. I submit.
Interesting. George, your own part of the snapshot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kidega. One, I can say that according to the address, there is always a phase out. But once a phase out is on, then a phase out was, of course, recognized by different people and us. But I think if a phase out is there, then it's our role as the young people. He began with the 3 agendas, and that was prosperity for Africa, where he encouraged highly that Uganda to develop, that should be East Africa and Africa at large. And I agree with that, because integration is very key for any country to develop. And so from my own overview, I think from my own perception, I think he has played his role as a president. He has played his role. I remember him talking about the different people he came into with power, the different African presidents that had the will and the move for East Africa and Africa to develop as a whole. Yeah, I appreciate his, he didn't, of course, avail much on corruption, but these are things that haunt us as young people. And I think with the principles that he talked about, that NRM principles, it's not him being the party president, it's of course in no particular order. He had to address by zeroing down to patriotism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy and all that, because it's something that builds up the country, and that's what he believed in. And so those who have probably subscribed and those who haven't subscribed could as well take on that. He, of course, reminded Ugandans that these are the principles that we believed in as NRM, or that we believe in as NRM. And these are principles that we stood ground on to see that Uganda is to where it is, and that's probably the past, the present, and the future, and what they are believing that Uganda will be after these years. One is that, yes, it was a brief address, but then at least entailing several things that, of course, not highly convincing, but it convinced to some, and I don't want to go into it didn't convince, because it convinced from the start, like from his beginning statements. And I believe every Ugandan that has hope for his or her country could at least buy from that. Corruption is there. He has all the powers. Even the last time when I was here, we talked about corruption, and it has highly happened and all that. But we should agree with the fact that he's seeing what is on ground. He's seeing everything. But then, as young people, I don't think we should copy to what is around. This is a generation that is going to be having big people in parliament, and you have the same power as Kamoga maybe one day, and trust me, you have to give hope to the young people. If the Right Honorable Speaker Anita Among is a victim of corruption today, you as a young person, what does it tell you, or what do you see that should be done and not be done? It starts with us, and therefore I submit to Adi Kidega. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes, Mucyo, your own evaluation, the general analysis.
Thank you so much. Once again, good afternoon. My own analysis from the State of the Nation address, I think it is summarized. He dwelled so much on the issue of integration, but even before I get into my own perspective, the State of the Nation address, I want to appreciate the young people that went out to support the Uganda Cranes. I think it also confirms the President's call to patriotism. Is also one of the ways of loving your country. Uganda,
Thank you.
Uganda. But I also want to take this opportunity to appreciate the comrades from the National Unity Platform for opening up their School of Leadership Institute. I think it also gives us hope that at least there is a crop that is going to come out with an ideology from that side. That is if it is handled well. Then going into your question, I think the President emphasized so much on the point of integration. And when you read his speech, when you also listen to what he has been speaking for the rest of the past days, he seems to believe that everything is going to rotate around the integration of East Africa, Central Africa, and Africa, that having a common market, removing trade barriers. I think he also communicates that I think this is a gift that he can live with us, seeing that East Africa is under a uniform body, a political coalition. He also tried to take us back to what they believed in as the historicals. Even their seniors, you heard him mention Nyerere, heard him mention the senior leaders who were the Kwame Nkrumahs, who were there in their times. When they were still students, him mentioning their movement being a student movement in the beginning. I think he seems to believe that there are some few colleagues, some few leaders in the country that are going in the wrong route, that are not cognizant of what they believed in as they were starting this struggle. So to all those that maybe are going into the wrong route, I think the President's address sounds a very strong warning to you, but it also gives us a lecture on how we can get back to what they still believed in at that moment. He had a few issues like prosperity. He had issues like security of the region. He had issues like ideology, where he talked about the ideologies, political leaders. He had issues like foundations of NRM, social and economic transformation. But I think for me, what I take out of it is he lectured us on the importance of integration to this country. And formally speaking, I think as the young people who are, let's say, are going to be in charge of the country, we should be looking at and we should be discussing what is the importance of integration to us in the future, because the president seems to be going that route, and he seems to be mobilizing everyone, the parliament and even other leaders around the region towards the line. But he also acknowledges the hindrances to that, because he believes some people are not willing to go that way. But he seems to be interested in going with those that are willing, where he mentions his coalitions with Kenya, in moving trade barriers, going towards a common market. That means that even when the rest of East African countries refuse to go into a coalition, he's willing to move with those that are willing. Even if it is only to be with Kenya, he's willing to do that. So my whole, maybe if we shall get time to go deep into the state of the national address, we shall discuss most of the points that he had to deal. Thank you.
All right. Fair enough. Let's just get into more specifics here. And maybe to begin with, because I think Daily Monitor, the following day on their front page, did attempt to portray what to them they think is the actual state of the nation, where they show the high crime rates, the state of schools, the state of roads and things like that. So just to get into specifics is that let's begin with corruption, because I think that even when we have a small resource basket, if well utilized, we can realize something. Our budget for the next financial year is 72 trillion. I don't know if we realize that, but that is a difference of more than extra 15 trillion from the current budget of this year. The question is, where is that money going to come from? But also, even when it successfully comes, either through domestic resource mobilization or through borrowing, how is it being utilized in the country? So let's talk about corruption. Guys, is there a political will to address corruption in this country? Because if you had the president, to me, he was creating a scapegoat. Because if you say that there are those who are fall in the category of mistakes, those who fall in the category of what? Who falls where? Is some corruption as a mistake and therefore it should be excused? So, Bagonza, let's just begin on the issue of corruption first. I don't know, what's wrong with this country and corruption?
So I think the day he shared his State of Nation address, I think there was a headline that came out and it was talking about his Pontius Pilate moment. When he actually put it out to those that were listening to him, whether the corrupt should be hanged or should be granted amnesty. I think you remember that part.
Yes.
So he had his Pontius Pilate moment. Now, the issue of corruption, I think is an unavoidable one. I think I've shared earlier before that corruption out of need and out of greed, and how the one out of greed can be combated using the means that we all know, creating very many institutions to give corruption multiple headaches, and the corruption out of need that cannot be abated. I really do not think there is political will to fight corruption. I think it's the grease that oils the system, and I think the Fountain of Honor took advantage of the fact that he had the nation listening to him to sort of play devil's advocate for the speaker. I mean, after a very revealing expose of the underhand dealings that were taking place in Parliament, I think she needed a bailout, and the president has played so much to bail her out. To me, I think in my opinion, that's what I think it is. Without a doubt, I do not think corruption is going anywhere anytime soon. I don't think it is.
Yes, Kamoga, your opinion.
Yes, thank you very much. Once again, I will start from where What was the last statement? Again, the last statement.
Corruption is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Thank you very much. I'll borrow that very statement. Us having President Museveni as the head of state, Uganda, corruption is not what? Why? How do you expect a chief thief to crash the system where he benefits from?
Yeah.
I will reflect on scenarios where the Right Honorable, you know, I'm going to repeat the Right Honorable because for her it is no longer even, it is no longer a surprise. Everyone knows. She's one of the top people that are known for this corruption saga. This is the very statement that I mentioned the last time I was there, Comrade Kidega. You remember when Right Honorable AA was opening up a school and she invited President Museveni as the chief guest. It was a hospital as the chief guest. At this occasion, you know this word of Okusudiyo Mugaga. The Right Honorable Speaker, was busy okusudiyaning Omugaga, telling President Museveni that for us we believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and referring to President Museveni as the Father. So how do you expect the father to crucify the daughter in the same system that they are benefiting from? And I believe that things should change. One MP from NUP was mentioning that, well, one person who has been a victim of corruption and etc. is my friend, but when it comes to reality and fighting for the nation, I will not take sides. I will go with what is right. And when you look at the majority and the minority, the majority is saying we're not supporting corruption. And for you who has voted by the people,
because I think, Bruno, and glad that you're on the show, is that you see, to me, I think corruption has become structure in this country, and that it is not just a matter of say the NRM and the government, but I think it
entirely
it is not
everywhere.
Corruption.
Yes,
you go in local government, everywhere there is corruption. So it has become a structure issue. So,
Comrade Kidega.
So the question is, how can this be approached? Because it seems to have gone into the DNA.
There is a statement still in Uganda. They say enyonyi ento eyigira ku nkulu okubuuka. So all these actions have been portrayed and reflected from the grandfather. In a family, when the father eats when he's standing, then also the grandsons and daughters will do the same. Still in English they say that don't do as I do but do as I say. All these things are phased out. People will take on doing what they see you doing. That is why you're seeing that even in the opposition, all these things have come up. Because they know, once you're a victim of this, there's nothing going to be done to you. The previous attempts of detaining Minister Rugorobi and colleagues, how did it end? The what? And that is a matter that the National Unity Platform has brought forward to show that for it will also nail its own as long as you become a victim. And that matter has been tabled in Parliament, and they're telling people to sign so that they can censor the commissioners. And now this is the position where we're going to see our own, the people that we voted for from different constituencies, what is their say? And it starts from there.
Okay, fair enough. Good. Just your own opinion about what the president said about corruption.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Kidega. But Banyankole say that akatokin kakachirkavsi. That means that whatever you install to a child is what they grow knowing. They grow up knowing that up to their adulthood. So that's just a reflection of our leaders today, most of the leaders today. What happens to the public? What happens to the public is what is reflected to the public is directly what is in Parliament and to our leader. I can't really corruption. Ever since I think around 2010, I was in P4, P3 something. I was writing corruption. up to date. I'm 23 or 20. I'm here on the panel. I'm talking about corruption. So it's something that has been there, and it's a new normal to them for some good time. It has been.
So how can we, because if we aspire to be a generation that is going to cause a difference, what do we propose?
Exactly.
What needs to be done? Is it
what
about,
needs to be done?
should we strengthen the institutions that are meant to deal with
what needs to be done is to go back in schools. To go back in schools, institutions, primary, secondary, institutes and universities. By the time a person leaves school level to the world, at least there is hope that these people are not corrupt. Because restrictions that are very...
I'm told in China that if you invest the public funds, you are executed.
Yeah.
In the public. Do you think if that happened, people will steal again?
People do. Today there is someone who has been victimized because of corruption.
If they got...
As we speak right now, no, someone is out there and is... Yes.
Hypothetically. Do you think that if today we had someone executed at City Square because of corruption, do you think that would send a strong message?
It would be. It would create fear to those who are corrupt. And at the end of the day, at least they would be corrupt, but at a smaller scale. On a legal scale of 1 to 5, trust me, most of our leaders, not only leaders, even private sector, even institutions, everywhere, corruption is everywhere. And that's what our leader has decided it to be. Because if at all he stood out today and maybe dictates or puts strong restrictions to his leaders, the speakers and all that, I think at least we would be to a smaller rate of that.
Meaning that he's the chief retainer of corruption. Very clear.
Surely, because trust me, Kidega, I have seen a certain country I viewed, and I saw a leader, president of a country, questioning his ministers and leaders. Where is this policy? Why wasn't it implemented? Why is this and this not done? We've not seen such videos about our country as Uganda. Actually, questioning you, where did this money go? Why?
Here I recall the IDG came up with a proposal that we need to have a lifestyle audit.
Yes.
And the president said, no.
They should.
Those ones. So now you ask yourself, where is the political will to fight?
For example, in commercial banks, I think every financial year, they do audit. They do auditing. Not even private sector. And this, of course, creates a base for them not to do anything that is not in line with what the institution wants. But here we are, as government, it's not there.
But
even if it's there,
audit
it's not
is in
done.
some government institutions. I remember when I was at Mobs Council, I was told to declare my assets. Yeah, last year.
But corruption
I was told declare your assets. Man, declare what? But well, that is the way actually things should be done.
But even, I think another thing, Kidega talked about schools. Trust me, he can at least say something, because he was a speaker of Makerere University some time back, and we know what the guild mama does every after our term. Like, you of course take your file and then have to sign, I did this and this and this, I was allocated 5M or 4 million, and this is what I put on table. Those are leaders, and these are leaders that are being nurtured into national leadership. And I think if at all, at least all institutions copied such, it would at least to a smaller rate. You know you're being corrupt, but there is something, you have to stand ground and witness that I didn't do this and this and this.
Okay, fair enough. Mucyo, corruption. And the president's approach of amnesty to some mistakes. And
thank you so much, Comrade Kidega. I think it is very disheartening in Uganda that corruption these days is very normal.
Yeah.
Speaking about it, talking about it is something that is not worried. Some countries, corruption is actually very worried. Being cited in any corrupt statement means a lot to some countries. But in Uganda, it is something that people laugh off. It's something that people take it as a political witch hunt. People can easily say that I'm being witch hunted. But in some countries, even if it is the president himself being, or even if it is and first son, you are indicted if really you're found guilty. So I think the president is at a state of the national address in regards to corruption. If we are to take the last remarks he made, I am sorry to say, but they are worrying. They are worrying. Even when you subscribe to the NRM, because it is. But I also think, for those that have always listened to him, he most times speaks in parables, and I think him trying to take us back to what they believed in when they were starting this struggle communicates something in regards to those that are taking, like I mentioned earlier, that when you hear him speak out, you hear that he's aware that the country is taking a wrong route, and that's why he's trying to drive us way back in the 1970s, where they believed that something was wrong, and they started up their movement to address such issues. I think if we are waiting for him to talk about the word corruption, and that's the message you're waiting from him, I think we might miss out the first things he talked about in his address, taking us back. I think it shows you that he's aware. Maybe he's worried to also make public comment on it. We have a chance that we have a former guild president who appointed cabinet members. I want to pose a question to him shortly, that we are presented with a scenario, one of your cabinet ministers is corrupt, but then you're going into an election period. What do you have to portray in the public? You have cabinet meetings. I think I have a belief that we do not know what is discussed in cabinet meetings. We would want to know what is discussed in cabinet meetings, where these people are attendees, where the president is in attendance, and also some of these ministers that have been cited.
You see, for us in the law, there's something called that justice must not just be done, but it must be seen to be done. Yes. So to me, the point is, whatever is discussed in cabinet, whatever is discussed in the public, the population must see and have the confidence that there is a step being taken to crack on the corruption.
Exactly.
Whether the president sits down with a mob in their private offices and cautions her, that to us might not matter much. For us, we want to see that carrot being cracked on her, that whip being cracked on her, and saying that this is wrong and it is unacceptable. You know,
meanwhile,
and condemning her openly, and in fact, instituting criminal investigations and charges against.
Well, if we are
such individuals,
if we had used that scenario,
the president said that if you're to convict everyone, who will you work with?
Meaning that everyone is
so that
practicing.
means he's lenient to the corrupt leaders in the system.
If we had used that scenario,
it's lenient.
If you had used the scenario of waiting for what the president has to say in public, truly it is evident that he seems to be uncomfortable to a certain point with the corruption cases, but he also seems to have no solution for it. He seems to have no solution for it because he tells you that if you are to arrest everyone that is corrupt, who shall we work with?
That is why the Kamoga are saying, if you have no solution, get out.
And
then
I'm coming to that point.
As for the solution,
I'm
get
coming
out.
to that point.
If you failed, get out and
I'm
let
coming
us
to
come
that
and we come with the solution.
I don't believe that the National Unity Platform has the solutions to curb down corruption.
Why?
Have
they been tried?
We can discuss that.
No, tell us, have they been tried before?
They have not been tried,
Have
but
they been-
we have also seen cases of corruption in their same political parties. People have made public outcries about how tickets are being served. We have seen documents fly on Twitter.
On issue.
Yeah, because documents are forged every now and then, and the rest, those are assumptions.
We have
the money.
Those are assumptions.
Given to them by the
yes.
by the EC.
We have a chance that this is a political party that has young people that are in their leadership, so you get a chance to have a discussion with them. You realize that there is a lot of corruption in the political party, so that disqualifies them from being part of the solution to corruption. But even when we are to talk about him getting out of office, I should say the reason why he's not taking a forceful hand to curb down corruption is it is only happening because of one reason: his continuous will to stay in power. The corrupt officials are the same people that are keeping him in power. You do not expect him to castigate the Speaker of Parliament, yet he knows that the Speaker of Parliament is the strong force in the Eastern region.
Yes. The whole of
when
Teso.
we get into 2026, she'll be able to mobilize for
The
him.
whole of Teso.
And
The
that's
whole
the
of- the
whole
whole of
idea.
this.
Yeah.
You do not expect him to castigate a certain minister who maybe plays a certain role in his stay in power. So it seems the corrupt officials are holding him hostage because of his interest to still maintain power. The interest of him to stay in power best known to him. That's why I say for any young person that is in leadership, that question should be answered. Do they still need him to stay in power? Do they need him out? But I also should say, it is not so long that he's going to be in power. We have an opportunity that a new crop is coming out of Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Meaning all our efforts,
That's what you believe in.
I believe in that, sir.
Why? Now, why would you believe in a drunkard? For sure, someone who can get drunk in
I
public.
believe, I believe,
Someone-
I believe if
Come on.
I believe there
Someone
are a
can
lot
do
of
Maybe
Let him continue. Because I'm getting pissed off. Like, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, among the story people, Mucyo, you've been in Makerere. Is that your mind and thinking?
I have.
You are disappointing Makerere. You're disappointing Makerere. I can't expect, and I'm not expecting such a statement from a Makerelian who was a speaker of the 87th government.
I want to clarify my position.
Mucyo, our interests taking you this far? Because we know you for deals, but our interests taking you this far?
Okay. Bruno, what is your issue with Mucyo supporting an individual?
Actually, it is very okay for someone to support an individual,
Yes.
but what does the individual stand for?
Yes.
Is it an individual who believes in certain... Now, let me ask, what is Muhoozi going to change? Because Muhoozi has grown up seeing what the dad has been doing. The same matters. You don't expect anything to change. Can you be so much different from your father? For sure.
Well,
Can you be so much different from your father?
Do you believe in transformation?
I do believe, but it depends. Transforming to what
Do you
and to
believe that
who?
people can change?
People can change, but he's too old to change.
If you
He
are
would
free-
have changed even before. He
At
has
what-
been
at
through
what
the
stage?
army. Some of us have seen the system of the army. Army men and women are taught how to be disciplined. For that, I can bear witness.
Okay. There is a public opinion that Bobby Wine used to smoke.
Weed.
Yeah.
And he's a changed
Does
man now.
does he still do it?
He is changed, yes, but he's
So,
not.
thank you.
But now we're talking about the
That's
national
actually-
system.
Yes,
We're talking about the national system, not the traits alone, but the national system. Leaving around the traits of Muhoozi, but you're looking at the broader picture of how things have been done in the nation, and he has been part of the system.
Well,
These are two-sided matters,
That's what I'm asking
and the other one we're only looking at the character of the person.
That is why I'm asking you.
Comrades, let us think widely.
Do
Let
individuals
Mucyo
change?
continue with
Me,
his ideology of
I
Muhoozi.
am
and
not making a point for MK, not for Bobby. All I'm saying is, I'm asking you
Transform
a
it.
question
People
that
transform.
Do people transform? Do they change? If so, then why do you believe that Bobby Wine can change? But
the,
this one cannot change?
the difficult
So,
matter
that's
for the MK or the Pira or something, it is two-sided. The personal character
Okay.
and then also the way of handling things. Because the way of handling things, it goes to a broader picture of the effect on the nation. And the part of the personal character, it is for his own benefit. And
But
once he changes that, that is okay. But can he also change the two things? And to what extent? And for how long will he change that? This is a question to ask.
Maybe
maybe
just to make a rejoinder.
Let us spare his time. Sure.
Okay. I think one, I would say it is also disrespectful of Comrade Bruno to publicly say that the CDF of Uganda is a drug.
But he portrays that.
Yes.
But we've seen him being so, and what you portray to the public is what the public thinks and sees. By the Comrade Kidega, today I have unserious people on this panel, and actually next time,
Kamoga,
let us go back to the topic.
I asked that you
Let's go back to the topic.
Withdraw its statement. I'm not withdrawing any statement. I'm not withdrawing any statement.
The commander right now would be in a certain serious meeting, and we have a lot of viewers for this program.
And please don't cut that. Don't cut.
Security has been jeopardized.
Yes, but also what I think Kamoga jumped to respond. He didn't listen.
I'm ready to listen.
My point of view was that at least in the NRM, when Muhozi is to vie for power, I think it gives us comfort that there is way to transition from Museveni to someone else. Because my earlier point was that the reason of this corruption not being dealt with is the continuous way of an individual to stay in power. So at what we need first is there a way to leave power. Then that's when the Kamogas can come in. That's when all other.
But we're not in hereditary politics. Uganda is not a kingdom.
He has a right as a.
But he has trained the son the same things that he has been. So right. You're just going to have continuation of the system, but not changing the system. And what we're fighting for is change, not continuation of the old system and the way of doing things.
But I also think that
back to you. You can continue.
For a comrade is supporting a former drug addict to say that they cannot transfer power to a drunkard.
But just like I said, that we're looking at two-sided matters, personal character and the way of handling things in a nation.
Comrade Muhozi has made public statements on what his stand is on corrupt officials. And he has vehemently and continuously told you how he deal with corrupt officials. And trust me, when you hear what Madam Vice President was saying about how other countries deal with corrupt officials, that is what exactly he's saying. So the question should be,
actually, for me, I don't believe in that.
Does he surely believe in what he's saying? That is not for us to respond to, because we're not in his heart. The same way, Oban might be saying he's going to deal with corruption, yet he's not willing to. I don't know if he believes in it.
Kamoga.
Is this a battle?
I also think
against one?
I also think we should look.
No, it is.
Moses Kainerugaba has traces. Moses Kainerugaba has traces of leadership, of institutions he has led before, SFC and the UPDF. Sure. I think for one that wants to verify his stand, leadership credentials and his stand on cases of corruption, should go back to how SFC behaves, their discipline, and how they handle their public funds. I think that's when we can know what his stand is on such matters.
Yes, go.
Yes, I'm going to say this, but I'm not in line with any party here. It's just an open overview.
In disguise.
Yeah, not really. Not really. One is that let's take a look on Ethiopia. Emperor Haile Selassie, when he was in power, the president before was the dad. You get? So that surely shows you that if a person is capable and has passion for what they are going in for, then they can take the lead.
And how was their system running? Was it the same with the corrupt officials of Museveni?
Well, that's I'm not going to answer.
Because it is not so.
But one thing I can say is that I believe in transformation.
With the right leaders.
With the right leaders.
Why do you say Muhoozi is not
And,
the right leader?
and the other thing is, if you're to take a look on how Muhoozi, before this whole thing of Larry's and all that, how he was before and how he is now, in regards to communication, in regards to everything.
He no longer reads food on paper.
Please,
Kamoga,
let me tell you, it is also not wrong anyway. It is not
Let
wrong.
gold by the
I believe he is having very many engagements, and maybe he had to write or something.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to defend that,
Which is
but
not true.
but
Yeah,
he's
it is-
right
it is
to
okay.
anyway.
Okay.
He
As
has,
long as
he has
someone
at
can.
least
We are doing
improved
pressure.
over time. And the other thing I can actually give him a tick if he's to stand any
Muhoozi.
time. Reason being, him being the CDF and being the president, that's something else.
Okay.
Like the system, security is some.
I want to pose a question.
Compared.
I want to, before we go, comrade,
Yeah,
there one
commercial
question to
break.
my comrade.
Yeah, you
by
can
the
ask me.
by the God is my very good friend.
Okay.
Gold.
Mm.
Is Muhoozi participating in Ugandan politics currently?
No.
Apparently, no. He's not. And the other thing I actually wanted to ask is that how can you critique a person that has not served you? Besides security, you've not seen him in politics.
But
He's not.
he has been in the army as a leader.
He has
Leadership
been in
doesn't
the
mean
army,
political
yes.
offices
but okay,
outside.
critique what is in the
You
army, but
think
not what is in the
Because
political space.
for him, it's just a name there. Other actions are done by the father. It is well known to everyone who is alert. Back to you, Comrade Kidega, because this conversation will not
I would
end.
wish him
Because
to
now
critique.
everyone is taking their political
No,
positions, but not
I
the
would-
ideation as we began.
No.
I think
Kamoga
the
Banza.
non-politician should speak.
We are different. Bagoza, you have sufficient time after the break.
Good.
Thank you. Let's take a short commercial break. And the viewers, just look with a muscle and see you shortly.
Kamoga.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Karibuni, for those of you who understand Kiswahili, we'll be back from that short commercial break. Ivan, you saw what has just been happening and the different opinions, but not to derail so much from what we're talking about, which was corruption, but of course we went into other things. But I'll give you the chance just to make your comments on it.
No, I think that makes me the most independent person here. I've not taken sides, and I have this to say really, that I think what we are facing are the challenges of this whole idea of the nation state, and I think it's Museveni that has said it before, that the idea of empires is a very evil one. This is ideally a system that was superimposed over African countries then as colonies, and it is what we are still facing now. For example, just take this as a case in point. Parliament was sitting on Thursday, and the president was in attendance to give a State of the Nation address. How much money was spent on just one parliament sitting? For the president to give us a university lecture about ideology and socio-economic transformation. Big sums of money. Parliament spends, I think, on an average, 2 billion per day every time they sit, and that's for normal sittings. So what of this special sitting to have a State of the Nation address? Now, it's these rituals that I think, for me, as a country, we spend a lot of money on, and money that is not going to generate anything. We are not spending it to generate something. That the other day, and I usually keep sharing this joke, that a woman who is a youth and a worker serving in the UPDF and a member of a certain constituency is represented by 4 people. Ideally, you're a woman, you're young, you're a worker, you serve in the UPDF, and you live or resident of a constituency somewhere. Those are 5 people representing the same very person. Kidega, you work, and I'm sure all the colleagues here, I think can say they are somewhere and doing some productive work. I want them to tell me what their worker MP has ever done for them that they can really say that I can come to Civic space and say that Wakajara, Honorable Wakajara, has done so and so and so much for me. It's actually not there. Because it's the entire idea of a nation state. It has been superimposed elsewhere in the world, and it has failed. In the Middle East it has failed, and in Africa it is failing. And what we are discussing today is just evident of that. Now, I think just to put the cherry on top when it comes to the issue of corruption, to me I think the challenge here is simply lack of concern. Why? Because the leaders, just look at our leaders. How many of them really can you say that are into productive business, are into the real economy? The real economy that really is about the production of actual physical, tangible goods and services. Very few. This is simply a bloated and a very parasitic superstructure that is very detached from the economic base. They do not engage in production in any way, and it's why Museveni keeps calling them parasites. He knows that they are parasites, but I mean, if it's the parasite you need to survive, then you must oil the system for you to survive and have the parasite survive and have a win-win. We are approaching elections. You're going to see how many apartment blocks are going to begin rising. Why? Because money is already flying left, right, and center. We shall begin with the primaries, and eventually we shall have the real election itself, and again we shall have to go back for another tedious, cumbersome, very counterproductive election cycle. Simply just for just. So, I really conclude by saying that the leaders here do not know what it means to start up a business in Uganda from the small capital you've mobilized from wherever you have and have it stand. It is why they will pass all these tax bills that you see them passing. Very insensitive, very, I don't know, I think condescending, they're very oblivious of what is taking place. So they literally can't pass. But the conversation is the polar opposite in Kenya. You have the Moi family, they're the biggest shareholders in Kenya, KCB. Ideally, they've been the biggest shareholders. So they know what it means to participate actively in the economy. The Ruto, they have the Brookside, the farms. They have the heritage group of hotels. They have lodges, safari lodges all over Kenya in the Masai Mara. So they know what it means to be in business. And it is why they will pass policies that benefit them and benefit everyone else by extension. Thank you very much.
Wow, very, very deep context right there. Just let us speak about institutions just for a while, because we find ourselves in this sort of democratic dispensation, at least as on paper, is that we entrust institutions to ensure that certain things are done. If we are trying to check a government, we are trusting that the Parliament of Uganda will do it. If we are trying to maybe prosecute public officials, we try to ensure, or we trust that the IGG will do that. So in our fight against corruption, where do the institutions stand? The institution of Parliament the institution of the DPP, the IGG. Now we know there's State House
Anti-corruption unit.
So in the fight against corruption, where is the role of institutions? Where is the role of civil society? If you guys recall, in Kenya, the Arab Moi government fell down as a result of civil society. Like, they put so much pressure on him. You go to Egypt. Was it Egypt? On the Tahrir Square? Yes, Egypt. The Muslim Brotherhood. Those are all civil society movements. So, in Uganda, where are the other stakeholders in the fight against corruption? Because if you say, oh, now he's the president, and he has failed, how about other institutions? So, Bruno, I just begin with you on the institutions that are charged with the mandate to fight corruption. Also, those that don't have the mandate but can play a critical role.
Yes, starting from your final statement, the others that don't have the authority but at least can play a role. We shall talk about the religious community.
Yes.
And these are the Christians, Muslims, and also other beliefs. Yes. Because in society, everyone has what they believe in. I personally, I subscribe to the Catholic community. And today morning, I was watching a video. I think this happened at the celebration of Heroes Day on Sunday. And there was a certain reverend, I think he's from the Anglican faith. He came up on the podium after praying. He had to air out his own air out his own benefit or interest. And he was informing the president that, Mr. President, 2026 is drawing nigh, and I would like to inform you that my car is getting old. Such a statement. Starting with 2026 is drawing nigh or is coming nearer. What does it mean? That even the societies or the communities that are supposed to talk about the wrongs that are happening in society, that have been suffocated by being privileged. You'll happen to see that at the installation of different bishops and religious believers, the president, not even government, but president as a person, he comes up and offers a new vehicle to the people who are installed, to the religious leaders who are installed. What does this mean? Is it a form of bribe? Is it a form of limiting of what they're supposed to talk about in society? I've seen some of the fathers, the reverends, there are those who come out. Recently there was a statement by, I think, Reverend Father Chivi, the youth, he's amongst the youth apostolate of Kampala Diocese in the Catholic Church. He came out criticizing some of the issues or the matters that have been happening in society. So they have talked about the religious faith or the religious society. Some of them have been suffocated. They can't even speak about truth. But there are those who will come and start speaking about, however, it cannot be fully aired out, but in parables. Another one, the civil society. We have a challenge as a nation or as Uganda, that in every system and every arm of government here, as long as the people who are there belong to the NRM or they were appointed by the head of state, obviously the final answer and also the verdict will be straight from the State House. You remember a certain judge, was it a judge? I'm not so much well versed with that system, but you know better, Comrade Kidega, since that's where you subscribe and that's where your profession is. The case that was handled, was it High Court after the elections? And the judge who had her own verdict, different from others. Exactly. What happened to her? Don't others fear the same thing to happen to them? That is for us to think about. Another case, the other units, for example, the anti-corruption unit. Some of the people who have been put, who is the current one? Is it Nakalema? The current head of that anti-corruption unit?
Yes.
Is it Nakalema? Nakalema is an official. And who gives her ranks? The president. So, guys, this is all a joke.
So you're saying that those with the mandate have been patronized?
Exactly.
Been compromised?
Exactly. They have been compromised, and there is nothing much they can do, even when they know. The IGG, this lady who has been Betty, is it Betty Kamya? Betty Kamya was from the opposition, and when she was offered that huge position, obviously, what do you expect? She used to speak the truth, but now she cannot come up with a conclusion without getting instructions from the boss. So everything and every the way things are supposed to be done in this country, they're under one person, and that is the biggest problem that we're facing.
Okay, fair enough. Good. Let me get to you, and perhaps we shall shift gears a bit to the issue of education, because the president, yes, he mentioned, but he didn't go so much into detail with regards to education. You're at the helm of the students' leadership in this country, so issues of access to not just affordable but quality education is of concern to your institution, but also to us really, generally. So what should the president have said about the education system as it stands? The access to HESFED, access to loans, you know. Yeah, so the education status in general, what should he have said or what should he know?
Thank you. I think the president could have a list, to the list, I'm saying to the list expected, it would be more about sensitizing schools, the different stakeholders in the Ministry of Education and schools at large. And also it could at least increase the budget of schools. Talked about UPC schools and all that, but trust me, there is no that quality education that anyone would go for compared to the private institutions. And the other thing is the institutions are highly rated, be it private, be it government schools. The rate at which I'm talking about school fees.
Yeah.
You go as at Spena, as paying St. Peter's Nali, as paying around 1.8 by that time, before COVID. Schools like Budo, schools like King's College Budo, SMARC, Immaculate Heart, and other schools, Rubaga Girls. Like, these are schools that anyone would love to go to, but those who don't have, of course, enough funds go to other schools down. But I'm telling you, we are facing a challenge, more so to the parents, be it these, even the people in government, who are as well, who have kids, students that go to these schools. Let us maybe talk about even the primary level. Schools are highly rated, and yes, they're right too, because no one has talked about that. They've not really fully addressed it or paid attention to it. You pay 2M for a student, and yet there's a certain course at Makerere University that goes for 900 or something. So what's that? Yeah, I understand the fact that when kids are, when children are still young, parents really try to invest in a lot of funds in regards to their care and all that. But when it comes to tuition, we have very brilliant children that have not gone, or students that have not attained that education, and they face challenges even at higher levels, joining institutes or universities. And so I would have expected him to at least address that to the speaker, the issue of increment of tuition in schools, in secondary schools, primaries, and at least call up for a meeting with the different stakeholders. Not him; it can be delegated to Ministry of Education, and the speaker and anyone in line with that, so that at least they reduce the tuition, in lower levels.
But
and also,
do you know, the tricky part of that is that Uganda took a decision, of course, by virtue of the structure adjustment programs, to have a more private sector-led economy. And irrespective, but also the whole idea about liberalization of the economy is that you find that government has very limited regulations, and therefore the forces of demand and supply are going to dictate the price of the commodity. And of course, it's unfortunate that things like education, have become a commodity in
Yeah.
this country, because there should be common goods.
Common goods.
Yes, there should be goods that everyone can access.
And access,
You know,
true.
at the lowest
Cost possible.
cost possible.
Mm.
So we find ourselves in a tricky position. We are in a liberal economy where the forces of demand and supply dictate, but at the same time, we want governments to have an overarching regulating arm. So I don't know, the Economist, how easy is it for governments to regulate in such a liberal economy?
I think you can't eat your cake and have it. I think it's close to impossible for government to impose the regulations, caps. And I've seen that populism kind of approach towards such issues. Even with money lenders, I've heard they want to cap their interest rates.
Yes.
That's impossible.
To 30%.
If it's willing buyer, willing seller, I don't think you can. It's impossible.
What government can do maybe is to just ensure that they create as many national institutions.
Layers.
Sure.
Yes. If their schools have as many national schools with good quality, if it is hospitals, have the same. But to attempt to regulate by virtue of policy, the private sector might be a bit tricky.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, even government schools have been turned to private.
Literally.
Yes.
PTA.
Because you pay.
Literally.
The PTA element.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's for that they had to hike their fees. I mean, we all went to school that we would love to have our kids go through. But given just the increment in fees, I don't think we'll be able to take schools there.
It becomes tricky. So on the issue of education, is it fair to say that the president shortchanged us? He did not speak about it in a... Because yes, he went about integration, coffee, exports and what. Yeah, those things are important and we appreciate them. But you know what, a child who is growing up at that stage, what they need is quality education.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, of course, if you have quality affordable education, their parents won't have to work so hard to try and grow. Oh yes, growth of coffee and cotton is good, but you see, the extent to which the Ugandan farmer toils, they're gonna businessman toils to get a profit in their pocket.
Only to be shortchanged at the farm gate itself. They don't even go to the market.
Yeah.
They're shortchanged at the farm gate itself.
Yeah, so I think it's a bit tricky, but yes, Mucyo, I'll come to you and maybe you can give us a comment on education, but also let's now go into the economics, where government and the president actually mentioned in his address the parish development model. And the president and government seems to look at PDM as
a panacea.
I don't know.
Silver bullet.
I like a term, yeah. Silver bullets, panacea, like the flagship program that is going to get Ugandans somehow magically out of poverty. And I think in every address of a government official, PDM cannot miss. But I don't know, like this PDM thing, do you think it's the right economic model for us as a country to take?
Okay. Thank you so much, Comrade. I think I'm really excited to comment about the parish development model because I think throughout, since the year started, it is an initiative that I've got to learn and also interface with people that are benefiting from it, or those that are not even benefiting from it. On that same point, I want to appreciate the National Youth Council that at least I've seen them try to monitor how this program is running, and I've worked with them in that program. That at least you see that they are concerned to know how the young people are benefiting from the 30%, and other programs running. I know they have a program of monitoring government programs for the young people. So, Comrade Kidega, I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I'm just a moderator.
But you also carry other titles.
I can relay the message.
Yes. But then, interacting with the young people in regards to the parish development model, and also interacting with the technical heads, who they call the CDOs, for these for the parish development model and other programs, you get to realize that it is a failed program. One, because of the money that is given to these people. I have set up a business before, 1 or 2, and if you really give me 1 million, that it is the money that you've given me to start up business.
As an angel investor.
As,
As a well-wisher.
I think that is money that I can. The young people are just using it maybe to cover the loans they are having, maybe to cover, maybe to buy bread for their families, or to buy bread for their mothers. I don't think that can be startup capital. You realize that people are not even remitting, because the president's ideology when they were start bringing up PDF is that people will be given money, they will use it. It's an evolving fund, they will bring it back. But when you talk to these CDOs, they give money to about 200 people, they only have one. I was talking to a youth chairperson last time, and he was telling me that the money that is demanding in loans is about 4 billion. They are only able to recover like 4 million out of the money that they are demanding. So you get the realize that,
and you know, these are taxpayers' money.
This is taxpayers' money that is given. But I'll use an example of Mubende local government. When you interacted with their with the leadership of the local government, they told you that the day they served out that money, is that the bars got filled up that night.
Wow.
People would bypass boutiques just immediately after leaving the local government offices, or withdrawing the money from the bar. That the next day, colleagues do not have any coin from that money. So you get to realize that there is a need to restructure, and I think this can be my opinion to the people that are implementing that, and maybe to the youth council that is trying to monitor it. That there could be other ways of managing this. But the current model is not really helping. It is not helping, and I don't think it is one thing that is going to help us.
Let me just put Bruno on the spot, because Bruno belongs to the alternative guardian. Bruno, what economic approach should a country like Uganda take to transform its economy and get it into the real middle income status?
Well, Comrade Kidega, well, I will start by appreciating, because I do credit where I do. And I think PDM would be a very good program, or other government programs that have been put forward so that they can solve the issue of poverty, unemployment, etc. However, when you're solving the problem, you should do the root cause analysis, whereby the root cause analysis, you find the primary cause of the problem. Not everyone is poor because they have no source of income, not because they have no medium or also other sources of starting a business and etc. But people have their own problems. Number one, the managing of businesses. Number two, the information of the different projects that they start. Because you not just start up a project of farming without getting knowledge about farming or in that particular product or crop that you want to deal in. So according to me, I think before the government actually distributes that money or it gives it to the different administrators at parish level, I'm informed, I've seen some of the members who are responsible for this money, the town clerks, straight to the ward administrators. I have all that information at division level. Well, their role is just to distribute money, but you're giving out money to those people. What idea, what root cause analysis have they come up with? What ideas, are they sustainable? Are they viable enough? Because in business, we do what they call the feasibility study. Okay? The feasibility study that aims on seeing the possibility of success of the business. We need to look at all those.
Because I put you on the spot, and I put you in the shoes of a future cabinet minister, right? And putting you to suggest for us policy reforms. Well, what I imagine you tell us is one, the government has a duty to create an enabling environment, because government cannot supply to everyone money.
Of course.
But government can create an environment through its policy, through its tax regime. You have young, passionate businessmen and businessmen here in Uganda who open their businesses, but because of the progressive tax regime, that they just cannot operate. You have to pay this, you have to pay KCC, you have to pay all these things. Eventually, you find that the environment that you're operating in is not one that can favor your business. You know, issues like infrastructure, electricity, the cost of paying for electricity in this country is very, very high. All right, that I think are they called cents?
Maybe what per hour,
like
something per hour.
The cost of a watt in Uganda is way more expensive than a watt in Rwanda, and yet this electricity is produced here.
Comes from here.
So, what I would expect you to propose is that the policy reforms that government can
Meanwhile, Comrade
fast track
Kidega,
to ensure that there's an enabling environment for the businessman. That you who grows your bananas, how easy is it for you to access quality market for your produce?
Actually, Comrade Kidega, your statement.
Our government is owed to a tune of close to, I saw, is it
97 trillion.
No, that is our debt. I mean domestic arrears.
Yes,
in terms of how much money the government has to repay to commercial banks.
About 10.9.
Yes. Now, if you have a government that is borrowing money domestically, it means that you, Kamoga, the private businessman, you cannot access credit from Stanbic, from the FC, because government has taken away all that money to use it. So it means that now for you to get that money, you'll have to get it at around to the 25% interest rate.
And you get it from loan sharks.
Which is very, very high. So, like the policy reforms that government needs to do, one of which is to reduce as much as possible borrowing domestically.
However, actually, where you started from a higher level. For me, as a citizen who has seen what is going on in the different classes of people, for example, there are people who haven't even reached that level that you've been talking about. That's another certain level of business. Now, I personally, I'm going to a citizen who has graduated, would like to participate in business or start up a business, but he or she has no start. First and foremost, I think there should be reasonable sensitization, educating a citizen on the various kinds of business.
You see, Kamoga,
because you cannot...
Even if you know what business to invest in, and you put up a very good restaurant, but if every month URA is going to come and tax you A, B, C, D,
these are all solutions that I'm laying out.
KCCA will come and ask you for A, B, C, D, blah, 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 penny, I mean, all these things. Then no matter how good your business idea is, the tax regime, the environment within which you do the business is just not going to work.
And next, where are all these reforms done from, or where do they debate all these matters? It's from Parliament.
At the point of
policy
a policy maker as a future cabinet minister, say in charge of finance, what policies would you think we can do or fast track to ensure that we get this economy working? Because personally, I don't believe in these handouts. PDM, Yoga. I have not seen the country transform like that. Better put that money in Uganda Development Bank. Let those who can access it, use it and repay back with small interest. But these things of giving money and all that
starts with the policies of the government. So the government itself should at least be in position to put itself in the steps of the citizens, because you'll find that the people who are making these reforms are people who are not even bothered about what is going on in the business world. These are people who don't operate businesses but just get taxpayers' money and fulfill what they would like to have on their own benefit. So I believe the government, actually the head of state himself, because there are things that are dictated on. If at all he can come up and give views about IFRIS, but he can't give a conclusion on IFRIS, meaning that he himself is supporting the poor system and the poor taxation system that is going on.
Okay, I'm here from...
So it starts with the head of state and what he thinks. He has the biggest number of representatives in the parliament, and I believe he has the biggest number of MPs, and MPs are the people who debate on policies and they are passed. So if at all Museveni can be deliberate enough and positive minded, and he is still patriotic as one of the principles that he believes in, and the entire NRA or NRM, he should come up and he advises on that matter to the legislators who are supposed to implement these matters.
Fair enough. Bagonza, the president emphasize certain things about the EAC integration and all these things. But you know that if you go back to our history, the EAC integration is not a new idea. You know that.
Yes.
Nyerere, the voters, they've been trying this and
Federation this year.
federation things, yeah. So, but to me, the point in the question is that, is it the silver bullet anyway to our economic problems, right? Because you've seen that even with our good, whatever relations with China, with Kenya, is that I think about two months ago, our milk was stopped. The border, was it Kenya or Tanzania?
It's Kenya.
Kenya. So it shows you that the political goodwill is not enough, all right? That even when Kenya is willing to let your goods come in, the goods must still be quality. So in terms of enhancing the quality of production in Uganda, agriculture being modernized, and putting our goods at a global competition level. The president, to me, did not talk much about that.
True.
In terms of access to fertilizers for the farmers, access to quality seedlings, so that our coffee tomorrow is one that, if well processed, can compete, on a much more bigger market than just ESC. So.
Yes, I think I'll begin from where you say the goods must be standard, but Kenya also has local industries to protect. Yeah. They must protect their own, so that they're able to fly before they can bring in or accept your goods from Uganda. And I think they are right in that regard. So, about the EAC integration, I think when we were still young, they used to tell us the 6 steps of integration. I think from free trade association to preferential trade area to common market to customs, and then to political.
Is the last.
Yes, and then monetary, I think something like that.
Yeah.
And I think, the public that is viewing us can gauge themselves on how far we have moved along that journey, and maybe what our hits and misses have been. But I'll say this, that really the idea of political federation to him, and he could clearly say it from his speech, to him is a matter of strategic security. That East Africa and Africa are not an island. They actually live in a world with very many other global players that also have their own personal selfish interests to peddle. And so his question is that if we do not act together and act right within that realm, where do we stand as regards with our strategic security? And I think he's right in that regard. That he keeps on talking about how there's a group that wants to control what's on land, in air, on water, in space. Where is Africa in that equation? Where is East Africa in that equation? So, I think to him that's his point of self-actualization. I think if he achieves that, I think he can go to rest peacefully.
Okay.
But maybe to finally conclude on the issue of PDM. I didn't want to let that slide because I'm a passionate cooperator. You see, I don't know whether it's just the way these revolutionary guerrillas handle their things, but they usually like to find something. They don't want to improve it. They will deconstruct it and want to build their own thing. The concept of circles and cooperatives has been around since the 60s. There is a structure. From the primary to the secondary to the unions that you all know. I think you've heard of Walimu, the teachers' union, to the apex body. Now, my question is, why come and create a parallel? Create a full PDM secretariat, or feed it with failed politicians, and then create branches at every parish, and I don't know, give them a computer, and then train them. Yet there is already an established structure which you yourself, as the powers that be, crippled because of the SAPs opening up the economy. So creating just that, it's so ironical. And I know I've had this space, Twitter space scheduled to talk about PDM, and really I think it's a wonderful conversation to have, because I'm actually amazed that he said he has interacted with people that have benefited from PDM just this year. This was a flagship program for the 2021-2026 manifesto, and we are in the 4th year, and up to now you move down to the villages there and you find the people that don't know what PDM is. They've just heard about it, and those that create those circles, some of them are even not registered. There's a full Auditor General report on just that, just the PDM and how it has been managed or mismanaged. And really, I think that handouts really cannot work. What would work is a startup economy. I've been reading a book. You know, Israel is a startup nation, and it's why America holds them so dear, because they pick all their new ideas from just that small desert you see there of a country, and they've managed to leverage on that to become the superpower that they are. So I think maybe in our conclusions we shall share what we think the president should have said in his sona.
Let us now invite the conclusion.
Yes.
And all of us just have 1 minute.
Yes.
Those are 60 seconds.
Yes.
So I'll begin with you, Mucyo, as I move towards Ivan. Just 1 minute, look to the camera, and just point out what the president should have said that he left out. The camera is yours.
Thank you so much. I think, as in my conclusion, what the president should have said is there was more, if we talk about the youth perspective, there was less to talk about in line with how the young people are benefiting in this. Even when we commented about the programs like PDM and other things, he didn't dwell so much on them to show how the young people are going to benefit out of it. He did not. So I think we should, as young people, we should be interested in knowing and interesting ourselves into the discussion of integration, because the man seems to be so much interested in it. So the young people should have knowledge about the integration idea, and let us have the views of the young people and let the young people be involved in it. But I also believe the president did not talk about the young people. His speech totally drew so much on integration, what they believed in, what has happened, the common market. But we believe to talk about things like education, how the education system is surviving, because I think the education system is an institution that takes the biggest part of the young people, how it should be transformed, the vocation training system, the formal education system. I think he had to mention many things. We are seeing universities like Makerere and other universities going down in ranking and even in training. We are seeing corruption cases in these universities. So I think the president should advise and should also comment on how the education system is going to survive, because that is the main sector that the young people could be interested in. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Colin.
Yeah, thank you so much. In my conclusions, I think the president could have at least put up penalties for corruption. Reason being, it's been the talk for the last, I think, 3 months nationwide, and I think at least he wouldn't cover it. He shouldn't have covered it, but rather could at least put up penalties so that you get into leadership, not as something that you're going to maybe create business out, but rather to serve your people. And at the end of the day, we would have at least effective leaders. Other thing, he talked about education. I can't drill far away from that. He didn't really pay much attention about it. I think in that regard, I expected him to have talked much, at least put focus on education, because even the leaders that are leading us today in Uganda have gone through the systems. And also, I expected him as well to address the issues of the young people. We being the biggest percentage in the country, at least he should have discussed more on how the young people in the different sectors can highly mobilize towards the development of Uganda. And a wrap up, I expected him to talk about, yes, his background and all. He came within the system, and yes, he did. And also remind Ugandans that it is not only Uganda we are creating, but Africa at large. And yes, he did. Thank you.
Yes, Bruno.
Comrade Kidega, I don't want to advise Museveni because he knows what to say and he knows what to do, but he doesn't want. However, being a military man, I believe he can look at the insecurity that has been happening, the round kicks. We have very many army officials, police officers, etc. I think he should look at that. I, being a victim of such circumstances, not round kick, but such circumstances of insecurity, I think he should solve that matter. The rest, in regards to economy, he knows what to do.
Yes, I think I'll conclude by saying what the president should have included in his State of the Nation address. That just look at the companies, the top richest companies by market capitalization world over. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, the Googles. So this is all technology. Where is Uganda positioning itself as a titan? How is Uganda positioning itself to leverage off this? We're now in the 5th industrial revolution. AI. I mean, students, so the youth are just using it to plagiarize the coursework. But they're not doing it, they're not using it for anything else that's constructive. So, what other constructive things should the young people use AI for? And this should clearly be reflected even in the budget, because it's an allocation of the national cake, and it shows where the government priorities, where it prioritizes most of its resources. Things like content creation. NBS had to create a new, bite for the young people, I think called Culture Connect, because they realized the young people are not following up with the conventional sort of way of news. I don't know how his government tapping into that. E-government, procurement. We've been to procurement arrangements or conferences before, and they've been talking about e-government or e-procurement. It never seems to get to us this side down. So, things like e-commerce. Everyone is opening. I have very many young people with very many apps, ideas. They are buzzing with ideas. You should go to the STI secretariat here in Naguru. Young people with very brilliant ideas. But all they do give them is free space and free power where to work from, and that's all. The rest is lip service. So, young people, tourism. I mean, we are blessed with God's natural bounty. How are we using that? I'm told people simply go and urinate in the Nile. That should be an opportunity for us to make money. Water rafting and all sorts of sports. So, I think I'll conclude with agriculture, because, again, the biggest percentage of our population that is largely youth are employed in the sector of agriculture. But we still believe in rain-fed agriculture, not knowing that agriculture needs water, not rain. So, and I think I'll advise young people to go and read. There's a book, it's called Let There Be Water. It's a book about how Israel managed to create an oasis and be a food basket, a desert being a food basket. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a way to bring this to an end. Mucyo, Bruno, Gold, and Ivan, thank you so much for your time. Of course, to the producers, Pal and the team, thank you for ensuring that the show airs right on time at 2 p.m. And today I will not wrap it up because you already, you've had it all. So until next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.